I now recognize the Chairman Emeritus of the Middle East and North Africa Subcommittee, the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Wilson, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And indeed, Ambassador Polt, thank you for your service. It's really inspiring to have known that your service in Estonia, in Serbia, Montenegro, and then find out Mexico City and Berlin. It just never ends. Thank you very much. And with that in mind, I'm so grateful for your association with McCain Institute. I had the wonderful opportunity to campaign. It was hard at Hilton Head Island for Senator McCain when he was running for president. And then I was grateful to be with him and Senator Lindsey Graham and Joe Lieberman campaigning in New York City. Mike Lawler gave me a visa to be there briefly. And so then over and over again, Senator McCain, what an inspiration. Each year at the Munich Security Conference, he played such a role, and indeed, he was referenced at the conference again this year as to his role that he's made. And so I wish you well in your service. With that in mind, in 2012, the GAO reported that the state had made limited progress in containing costs or providing administrative costs. It did not reduce the need for American administrative costs overseas, which cost more than local staff. Do you have any suggestions on how to re-engineer the administrative processes and seek innovative managerial approaches to improve cost effectiveness?
Mr. Wilson, thank you very much for your question. And I'll give you my answer, but of course I will defer to my colleague here who's got much more expertise in those specifics. But I'll give you my response from my experience of 35 years of being the beneficiary of the administrative services that the A Bureau and other colleagues at the State Department provided. I must say that the overall support that the State Department provides both to its foreign and civil service and its locally employed staff is excellent. People try very, very hard to go ahead and make us capable to provide the services that we are to provide for the American people in whatever function we serve, political, economic, public affairs work, consular work, or the management staff of the embassy. So overall, I think we all deserve gratitude. We all deserve to give gratitude and applause to our colleagues who provide the services. Now, that said, I must say that I've been, over my time in the State Department, involved in a few efforts previous to the current undertaking that I did with some of my former colleagues to try and streamline our overall bureaucratic processes. And I'll give you one example that I think is, I once proposed and I was quickly shot down, but one that I'd like to offer here for your consideration. For instance, our travel management system. To travel for, as you probably learned from your own experience, to travel for the US government can be a very complex enterprise. And it becomes very, very difficult to arrange, very complex to do, and I would argue costly to maintain and to then cross-check once you have accomplished it. I once proposed something totally revolutionary, which I think would save the government a lot of money and make it much simpler to go ahead and undertake the vast amount of travel that the State Department particularly has to engage in, and that is a totally no-fault travel system where the United States government simply says, Mike Polt, you're being sent to U.S. Embassy Berlin. You are to report to your supervisor on date X, and you are serving there for the 3 years. The State Department has figured out that costs so much money for you to go ahead and afford to make that travel. Cabin, coach class, American carrier, all those rules. We've deposited this amount of money in your bank account, report to your supervisor, have a safe trip. End, over, out. There's nothing further that needs to be checked, nothing further that needs to, no additional bureaucracy that needs to be deployed. You can just go ahead and do that. We could save ourselves a number of positions and expenses if we did away with some of those people who have to
Thank you for that suggestion. I saw Chairman Lawler write that down to forward it ahead. Madam Secretary, as a former real estate attorney, it's always intriguing to me, real estate owned, particularly by the U.S. government, and there are some properties that are underutilized. What's being done to determine the ability to divest properties that are not needed worldwide?
Sure. So I can certainly speak to domestic facilities because Overseas Building Operations is the bureau that's responsible for the properties that are overseas that are owned by the State Department. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, one of the things that the Real Property Group is doing in the Bureau of Administration is working under a working capital fund in the idea that if you charge other bureaus at the State Department for the space that they occupy, whether they use it well or if it's underutilized or potentially not used at all, that they will not want to incur those fees charged to them by the Real Property Management team, and therefore find ways to use the space more efficiently going forward. And if the space is unused, be willing to give up that space and give it back to GSA, who we all know is the landlord of the majority of the domestic facilities that the State Department operates out of. So I think that's really a good way to really make sure you know what square footage you actually have. It's surprising how many government agencies don't even know the footprint that they necessarily possess.
Thank you for your efforts.
No problem.
I yield back.